To be the best leader, the best CEO of a company, when it comes to your employees, where should you fall on the scale of complete transparency of all knowledge, all the way to complete obscurity, militance, and putting people in a specific box of this is your job, this is what you do because I said so. Now, having employed over 200 people, I've tested both. And in my most recent company, I have tested both for my sales team. So the first group of people that we hired for a role, we tested with the pure, opaque view, right? Obscuring all knowledge and just, this is the one lane you're being hired to stay in. The one thing that you do. And we split up one role into 3 so that we could decrease the skill required to achieve proficiency in the role, so how good you are, but also to make it a simpler experience for people to be able to look after their responsibilities more effectively, right? And the reasoning behind why they did stuff didn't matter. They were given a set of instructions and they followed it, right? And it worked. We got decent results. But not quite good enough that I thought this was immediately the right decision, right? People weren't able to think outside of the box because they didn't have the context by which to make decisions for unique scenarios. That was the limitation, right? So come round 2, we now go the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Now we explain absolutely every decision, every thought process behind a new system to everyone that was interested, right? Whether they liked it or not, they're being told because I wanted them to feel part of a team, to be connected, and make it a group effort. The issue with this one was a little more complicated and something that I definitely experienced back when running a chocolate factory, in that there's no PC way to put this really. But there's a reason the people you're employing aren't running their own business, right? Whether that be a lack of skill, a lack of motivation, a lack of intelligence. There's some reason why they're not doing it themselves, which is why they work for other people, right? And that's fine. But it also means they're missing some of the context, some of the experience to actually not just understand, but to have experienced the significance of a decision in the past, right? I can't think of a better way to explain that. The way that I can think about it is, if you were to turn around and ask an employee, hey, if push comes to shove, would you work for free to make sure that the goal of the company is achieved? Now, at that point alone, most people would probably say no, right? And then if you extend that to say, would you work for free for 3 to 5 years at double the hourly expected hours without pay? Now you get almost everybody saying definitely not. Then extend the question further. What about you do all of that, and out of your own money, you invest more into something that's unknown, into other people who aren't achieving enough results? Now would you? And then they say, well, no, definitely not. Okay, and go even further. How about going out and getting a loan out against, I don't know, your own home to do that, on top of not getting paid, on top of putting in your own money? Then they're going, are you absolutely crazy? And the fact they haven't gone through that is why some of these things fall short, and when it comes to making a tough call, they're not able to, right? Because they haven't experienced that level of accountability before. I've got a more in-depth story about that, which I'll save till further to the end, but I just want to get to the point here of what my key takeaway has been. So, for the third role, the third run through with our sales team this year, I tried a different approach, and I think, although the actual team fell apart for a different reason, I think this is the right approach going forwards. Given the two extremes, I think stay in your lane, you know nothing and you do it just because we've said you do it, works better than the complete explanation. It takes too long and there's too many gaps. If you don't have the skills to take into account the dependencies, you won't understand. And so it's really difficult. The other hand is really simple, but there are limitations as to flexibility, which is why we had to try something new in the first place. Now, I think the best explanation, the best way to do this going forwards is to simply say, after you've sat in your meeting room, you know, for 12 hours straight, pondering the problem, thinking of every dependency, everything that could go wrong, you finally come to a decision, an action that you're going to take. That's the key takeaway you deliver. You deliver the key takeaway, and to make sure that they feel involved in the decision, you give them the justification as to why, and you check in with them. Does that sound reasonable? And of course it sounds reasonable, otherwise you wouldn't have suggested it, right? And you involve them a little bit with any pitfalls you can think of, blah, 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 so that they have some say, some connection with what's going on. So, one key takeaway, not every possible combination, every pro and con, every dependency, just the one you're going to do, and one reason as to why you're doing it, and that's it. And don't go any deeper. And I would also say, don't go and tell, this was really important, don't go and tell employees about things that may or may not happen in the future that don't directly affect them if they're not part of the decision-making process at the current moment in time, because they will come to expect it, even if you put it out as a hypothesis of, hopefully we're going to aim towards this, don't know how long it's going to take, they're expecting it in the next couple of days, in the next couple of weeks. And it becomes a bit of a letdown. They start easing off the brakes if it's something to actually help them do their job better. Not a fun workaround. So the key takeaway, all the way at the end, where to fall between complete transparency and complete militant, here's stay in your lane, here's the SOP, do what's said, be a robot. If it was a scale, I would say 2 steps in out of 10. 2 steps in from the militant robot, simplify jobs down into few key responsibilities, allow people to have some level of automation and understanding to be able to make decisions for when rogue situations or unexpected situations arise, then review them later. And how much information you give them when discussing and exchanging business activities that are happening, just the change that's being made, and then just one reason as to why that's what you're going to do going ahead, and include them a little in the decision, but not the 6 hours of other stuff. That's my recommendation. That's what I found works best. And this information, actually, it's taken me about 6 months to really wrap my head around where I fall on this. And today I spent about 3 hours talking with my friends who own a gym, whose video I made yesterday to talk about their finances and what they should go to do going forwards. And this was the outcome of the conversation of what would I do in their situation with the staffing situation that they have now, and where to fall on this scale. And it really helped me process my thoughts, and that's why this is the topic for the day. So hopefully that's clear. If you have any questions, if I haven't clarified something clearly enough as to how open are you with what's actually happening within the business, you know, how many numbers do you give them, all that sort of stuff, ask. And one of the key reasons why I think being completely transparent, another one why I think completely transparent is a bad idea, is entrepreneurs typically have a much higher level of risk tolerance than normal people, and you very quickly incite fear, which makes people worry if there's a job for them tomorrow, and then they start looking elsewhere, even if you've managed to keep the company alive for the past 5 to 10 years and never missed a payment. But like that, they don't feel that certainty that you do. They don't have the scars having lived, which is where I think lots of the difficulty comes from. As I said earlier, it's about the experiences they haven't actually had, because they're not you. They're not doing the crazy things that entrepreneurs have to do to be and to create great things. That's it. If you want the other story, tell me you do, and I'll tell you about a 6-hour conversation with someone who doesn't have that experience, and we ran through the entire thing and they still came to the same conclusion, that they understood the decision that was made and there was no better option that they or we could think of, but they still didn't like it and blamed us for having to make that decision, even though there wasn't a better one that anyone could have made. So that's really tough. But anyway, I'll go into way more detail on that story if you're interested. But for tonight, that's it. Have a lovely evening.